Hallo zusammen. Today I, a German who's making videos about the German language and culture here on YouTube, want to try to answer recurring common questions about the band Rammstein that were asked on Google. I don't know the questions yet, I don't know if I can answer all of them, but I'm gonna try my very best, at least. Alright, so let's begin with the why questions. Warum? Why are Rammstein comments disabled? Well, you might have noticed that as well when you try to watch a Rammstein music video on YouTube, there are no comments. And you can't actually write a comment down there because the comment section is empty. It's disabled. I guess it wasn't disabled by the band themselves, but rather by the band's management. We still have to remember it's a band, they are not YouTubers directly, like content creators per se. So it's a bit different for them, and it's not their only source of income, of course, but it's still, well, an interesting step to take, not without risk when it comes to like the algorithm and how it works, you know, many factors that play into that, all of that, and the traffic on YouTube, how your channel is evaluated by the system. Of course, I don't really know the answer to this one in specific, but I have some assumptions. The nature of many Rammstein lyrical topics that is, can be quite delicate, so I could see fit that they said, okay, you know what, comments that we've seen in the past were kind of, you know, on the edge of being rather rude and maybe even leaning towards hate speech. If what I just said might be one of the reasons why they decided to do that, I can see fit why they did. Why are Rammstein so popular? I tried to make a video about that before, and I think there are multiple reasons. They are more than just a band, they are a brand, which means their marketing and their self-promotion, so to speak, those skills are really, really well developed. Their marketing team does a really great job, not only when it comes to, you know, promoting merchandise and using Ich will, like little claims that everyone knows and can relate to from songs and from lyrics, not just the music, not just the lyrics, and not just the way Till sings. Of course, that is also a big factor in everything. The logo and the whole aesthetic of the band is so recognizable. Recognizability, I think that is one of the biggest and most important factors when it comes to Rammstein's success. You know, you can make the best music in the world, and I'm not saying Rammstein isn't doing that. It's not overly complex, and it doesn't have to be. It's great for what it is. It has a pop sensitivity, but in the best sense of the word. Like, it's metal, but with catchy melodies, with an interesting singing style, and of course also this Teutonic flavor that's in there as well. So there are many aspects when it comes to that, and that is what I mean when I say Rammstein are more than just a band, they are a brand. The live shows, you know, I guess there are people that just go to the live shows even if they don't like the band or their music, and that is something that sounds easy and, you know, obvious maybe even, but it's pretty tough to achieve all of that and to maintain that status as well. Why are Rammstein tickets so expensive? You have to keep in mind that it's not just like the band is touring, flying from A to B and that's it, and then they perform and, you know, that's the whole thing. Not at all. You have to keep in mind Rammstein, once again, is more than just a band. It's not only a brand, but it's also an employer for many people that work for Rammstein and for their live shows. Many people that travel with them across the world, across the globe. They have to be paid, you know, they have their salaries and stuff, pyrotechnics, little gimmicks and, you know, stage performing toys that they use. For instance, like this penis pistol. It's an event, you know, it's not just a concert. All that comes into play here, and that is why I personally wouldn't say their tickets are expensive in the sense of, you know, they cost more than they should. Those tickets are rather pricey, but for good reasons. Why are Rammstein called Rammstein? There are many different versions of like the origin of that band name. There is a military base called Rammstein with just one instead of two M. And back in 1988, there was an air show going on. And during that air show, there was a big, massive accident. And I believe in the very early days of the band, they were even called Rammstein Flugschau, which pretty much means Rammstein Air Show. You know, flight show. And maybe they didn't know that the town Rammstein is just spelled with one M instead of two, and there is the German term rammen, to ram. Maybe that is why they chose 2M, or maybe they did it on purpose in order to not to be confused with that necessarily, even though they might have been inspired by that accident and that town, that military air base. If you want to learn more about the pronunciation of Rammstein and all the different facets of that term, what it means, you know, it's a compound word actually, feel free to watch my video about just that. You can find it in the end card, and of course many other Rammstein videos that I've done throughout the years by now. English translations and explanations of the German lyrics for learners of the German language and much more. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check out the playlist in the end card. Let's continue with do Rammstein questions. Do Rammstein speak English? Yes, they do. Some more fluently and better, and some, you know, from what I've heard in interviews, I think Flake isn't really as fluent when it comes to speaking English. That's not meant to mock him in any way, shape or form or to criticize him. Don't get me wrong, I'm just stating that. Richard Z. Kruspe, the guitarist, might be the most fluent one when it comes to speaking English, because he also lives in New York, if I'm not mistaken, and he also has his second band, Emigrate. To me, I think Till rather has a tendency towards, you know, being interested in Russia a little bit more. Could just be me, I don't know. Heard him speaking English as well. But yeah, and the other guys, I'm not too sure, but I think they can actually speak English as well. Quite okay, you know, the typical German way of speaking English. By the way, fun fact for you guys, when Germans learn English in school, it's usually almost always pretty much British English. They don't learn American English. So when you hear Germans speak English and they sort of use, you know, British pronunciations and verbalizations of certain words, dancing instead of dancing and all that kind of stuff, that's for a reason, because usually we learn British English in school. Are Rammstein good? No. They are great. Hope you learned something. If you did, you know what to do. Leave a like, share the video with other people, and also make sure to subscribe and to activate the bell in order to not miss any other future videos about Rammstein, about other things related to the German language and culture. That would be highly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.